tonight we're going to be looking at shoulders and especially the combination between mobility and safety and support that we need in our shoulders. So especially thinking about rowers, where we're working a lot into our shoulders, but sometimes we're really overworking them and we get a bit clenched and tight. So we're going to work on a little bit of mobility in the shoulders, but we're also going to be working a bit on stability, because the shoulder joint is actually quite a shallow joint and it's quite easy to pull it out or get things like rotator cuff damage for rowers. So we're going to have a wee look at that combination of where we can get some nice mobility in the shoulders, but also be stable, secure and strong. And we're going to work on finding the use of the much bigger back muscles so that we can put less pressure on this shoulder joint and also be much stronger and much more efficient in our stroke. We're going to start off finding a really comfortable seat, whether you like to be on your knees or cross-legged. I'm sitting cross-legged, but I'm in what's often called easy pose. It's not all that easy for everybody, but I'm sitting on something. So I've got a little cushion. If you've got anything like a wee block, that can be really good underneath your hips just to lift them a little. And then the real trick to easy pose is to not cross the legs. So not quite like what we do at primary school where we cross one shin in front of the other, but to allow, say in my example, I've got my right foot in front of my left shin rather than underneath my left shin. And that allows the hips to soften a little bit more and a bit less resistance, keeping the knees really tight and the hips really jammed up. And another useful trick if you are in easy pose is if you're tall like me, I have a tendency to always put my right foot in front. So sometimes it's quite good to mix it up, and I'm going to tuck my right foot in and make my left foot settle in front of my right shin. So wherever you are, the main thing we want to try and do from our seated posture is to get as much space and length into our spine as we can. So we're going to start just by softening our breath, finding a really natural breath. Maybe just a little longer and softer than it's been as you've been running around during the day. Inhaling and exhaling. And with every exhale, see how much weight you can bring into your hips. Could you really allow your hips to sink down into the mat? And as you find that weight with the exhale, see if with your inhale, you can find a little bit of lightness in the upper back of the spine, in between the shoulder blades, maybe slightly retracting your chin, letting your cervical spine get really long. So with every exhale, finding the weight in the hips, every inhale, feeling the lightness, almost as if your spine's beginning to separate away. The lower part's being dragged down into the earth. The upper part is lightening and reaching away as the crown of your head reaches towards the ceiling. And straight away, we're beginning to find that posture that we really want to find in a boat, that long, tall spine, the weight coming through our hips that's giving us the stability to be able to swing backwards and forwards, the lightness in the upper spine that stops us from clenching around the shoulders. So the more even we could just do some quiet breaths, lengthening the spine, weighting the hips, finding the navel maybe gently drawing in to support that lengthening of the spine. And seeing if we can stop the chin jutting forward. Then we're constantly practicing that posture that we'd really like to find in the boat. So I'm going to do 2 more full inhales and exhales. And on the third inhale, we're going to inhale for Om, our 4-part sound, ah, resonating in your belly, the ah into your rib space, into your chest cavity, around your palate and into your throat. Like finding those vibrations and letting them settle in the fourth part, the unstruck sound, where we really just observe those vibrations and try and shake off the day, move into our yoga practice. So inhaling fully, exhaling completely, weighting the hips. Inhaling fully, lightening the chest space, letting the spine fly. Exhaling completely. And inhaling for Om. Om. I'm just taking a minute now with all those vibrations going through that lovely posturally long spine, weighted hips. And then thinking with your breath of inhaling as if you were reaching through the stroke. Exhaling as you drive, still with that lengthened spine, tuck chin. Inhaling to reach on that water, seeing the ripples. And exhaling to drive, still keeping that chin tucked, head tall, skull over the spine, not flying forward. And last time, inhaling to reach, watching out that the chin's not jutting forward. That spine's still in alignment. And exhaling to drive, drawing the navel into the spine, flushing out all the air as you maximize the use of that lung capacity. And then releasing, you might want to come to your knees, or if you're fed up on your cross legs, or stay cross-legged. I'm going to come onto my knees. And if your knees are at all tender, you could take like a little blanket or a little cloth underneath your knees. They can be a bit bony on the mat. And we're going to work up to warming up our shoulders, starting through right from the palms of the hands, just getting a little bit of rotation and spiraling in there. So as we inhale, we're going to rotate our palms up and out towards the ceiling, just from the hands, exhaling, rolling over so the palms face the floor. With each inhale, opening and maybe extending your spiral. It might be coming up your lower arm. Exhaling with a little bit of resistance, as if you were working against something. Inhaling to open and supinate, coming right up, maybe to the elbows, maybe it's coming into the upper arms. And exhaling to pronate, spinning over. And maybe this time they don't just face the floor, but the thumb keeps on revolving and you start internally rotating the arms. Inhaling to supinate and open. I'm coming right up to the top of my arms and into my shoulders, shoulder blades beginning to draw together. Exhaling to supinate, drawing my navel in towards my spine. Palms are turning down and my thumbs keeping going so that my shoulders are beginning to internally rotate. Watch out here. You can see my shoulders want to sneak up. See if you can still keep the shoulders depressed and away from the ears, even with that internal rotation. Okay, and then release. Give your hands a little bit of a shake, and also give a little bit of consideration to your hands themselves. For rowers, these little claws become quite tough. So it might be worth just squeezing and releasing your hands, and then giving them a little bit of a shake. We're going to do a session that's going to look at hands and wrists, I think, next week. So shaking them all out, having warmed up a little bit in our shoulders. Now we're going to do everybody's favorite exercise, grabbing either a brick or a block or pretending that you've got one. It could also be a book, maybe something a little weighty if you're doing a lot of regular rowing. And again, choosing, I'm going to turn sideways so you can see what I'm doing. If you want to you might want to have something under your knees because we're just going to be here for a moment or two. And we're going to take either our imaginary block or our book or brick and hold it out in front of us. So immediately as we're holding it out in front of us, I'm going to take mine so that it's not on its narrowest edge between my hands, but I've got my hands a little bit narrower than shoulder distance apart. Straight away, I want to pay a bit of attention to my shoulder blades and my shoulders, my traps. Watch that they haven't already sneaked up around my shoulders. Our traps like to take control, and quite often when we're rowing, we come into the traps, but it's more efficient if we could use our bigger back muscles. So from this position, if you've not already exhausted your arms just holding them out, we're going to inhale to elevate the shoulders towards the ears. As we exhale, we're going to reach our hands forward, keeping the shoulders up and elevated, and we're going to protract our shoulder blades. Our shoulder blades are doming behind us. Our hands are reaching away from us, and our shoulders are still up by our ears. As we inhale now, we're going to let the shoulders release down. We're going to depress them away from our ears, but we're going to stay protracted, really rounding the back and reaching away. And then as we exhale, we're going to keep the shoulders depressed, and we're going to retract the shoulder blades, really draw the shoulder blades in towards one another, as if you were trying to squeeze a pencil between the shoulder blades. And one more time, inhaling, stay in that retracted position. We're going to raise the shoulders up towards our ears. As we exhale, we're going to keep the shoulders raised, but protract the shoulder blades, letting them round and the fingers reach away. As we inhale, we're going to keep the protraction, but we're going to let the shoulders depress. We're going to keep the shoulders depressed. And as we exhale, we're going to retract the shoulder blades, draw them in towards one another as if we were squeezing a pencil. And then you can drop your block or your brick, give everything a shake about. Maybe just take a minute to shrug your shoulders up and drop them down in a couple of wee circles to release it before I make us do it all again in the opposite direction. So when you're ready, and even if you're not, we're going to take our block or our brick out in front of us again. And this time we're going to go in the opposite direction. So as we inhale, we're going to drop our shoulders, keeping our hands reaching straight out and our shoulder blades retracting towards one another. As we exhale, we're going to keep them retracted, and we're going to elevate up towards our ears. Exhale, keep them retracted still, and drop the shoulder blades down. Inhale, keeping them retracted and drawing the shoulders up towards the ears. Again, drop your brick, give it a little shake. Maybe you want to gently drop your chin forward to your chest and gently raising your eyes, look up towards the ceiling. Give a little release in the upper back and between the shoulder blades. Shake off, and we're going to do the same thing in the protracted position. So we're taking our brick, we're putting our arms out, and this time we're protracting our shoulders. So we're starting with that rounded shoulder blade position, and that's the position we look for when we're in a high plank in yoga. We really want that doming of the upper spine, but not always the shoulders reaching up towards our ears. So we're just reaching out in a neutral position just now. And then we're going to inhale, and from that protraction, we're going to stay in the protraction and depress the shoulders so they're going down and away from our ears. We inhale, still keeping that protraction. We're going to suck the shoulders right up near our ears. As we exhale, we're still in protraction. We're going to sink and depress the shoulders. And as we inhale, we're going to suck the shoulders up around our ears, still in protraction. And then we're going to release, shake off again. And one last round, if you can still face it. You might find it useful just now, while if you're kneeling, to take your hands maybe just about a foot behind you. I've got my fingertips tented, but you might have your hands on the mat, and just let yourself lean a little into the hands, maybe open up the chest for a moment, again releasing that upper back. And then come back into your kneeling position. And just as a reminder, one of the reasons that we do this exercise, partly to get those movements, but partly also to realize that we can protract and retract without elevating and depressing automatically, that they're separate movements. So when we're rowing and we're reaching out to take our stroke, we do not have to also be sucking the shoulder up towards the ear. That's a much less efficient movement. It takes it into the traps instead of us allowing to use these fabulous big back muscles as an extension of our arm pull. So really what we're trying to do is mentally get a sense of how we can separate those movements. So this very last time, I promise, we're going to reach our hands out, holding our bricks. We're going to start in retraction. We're going to inhale to depress while retracted. Exhale to protract while reaching forward, still depressed. We're going to inhale to elevate the shoulders, still in protraction. We're going to exhale to retract the shoulders, but keep them elevated. We're going to inhale to keep the retraction, but depress the shoulders. Exhale to protract, but keep them depressed. Inhale to keep the protraction, but elevate, really reaching up to the ears. And exhale, keep that elevation, but reach back and retract the shoulder blades until they're trying to squeeze together like they're squeezing that pencil. And then release and really give a good shake off. You might want to go for the full wave, one arm to the next, maybe rotating right from the fingertips into the shoulder joints. You'll be feeling that one a little bit tomorrow, but it's really great for us, both as a physical exercise, but also as a mental exercise, to really get that sense that when we reach, when we pull, we do not have to elevate. We can keep a healthy, it doesn't have to be fully depressed, but a healthy neutral position that allows us to engage much stronger core muscles and back muscles than hunching and pulling and shortening our stroke. Because if you see what I'm doing, if I do everything just here from the shoulder and in the traps, my stroke can only go there. If you give it a wiggle yourself, you'll see your shoulder blade actually traps you in there. Whereas if I can find the same protraction around my shoulder blade, but allow it still to be in a neutral position, I can engage all the way through my core, through my back muscles, as I find that rotation and pull. So yeah, a really good one for us to get a sense of. But let's release that a little bit now. I'm going to sit cross-legged to get off my knees, and we'll do a little side stretch to get a little bit of relief there. So again, always finding your really tall spine, chin slightly retracted, really with the sense of the weight of the back of your skull being located over your spine, so it's getting proper support. Inhale, exhale, let your heart rate settle. And on your next inhale, we're going to press our left hand into the mat. Let our right hand supinate, so the palm is facing the ceiling, and let it float all the way up and over so that we can find the extension in the right side of the body. Again, use this chance to think about allowing the shoulder to stay depressed. And then exhale, pronate the hand, palm facing down, finding resistance as you release it towards the floor. And on the opposite side, inhaling, supinating the left palm up towards the ceiling, really engaging from underneath the shoulder blade rather than in the trap, letting the arm float up, reach over, see if you can actually think about plugging the left shoulder into its socket, getting it away from your ears. And exhaling to pronate the hand, let the palm find resistance as the arm reaches down to the floor. And then we'll get onto our hands and knees and have a wee spinal wave to get right into that upper back area as well. A great way of thinking about the spinal wave is to give yourself a sort of imagination. It would be great for kids yoga, as if we were one of these dinosaurs with the quiff all down the back. There's that stegosaurus. And we really want to show it off to its very best as we pronate on our way forward. So we're going to start off hands and knees. Hands are going to be a little further forward than your shoulders. Again, you might have to shuffle your blocks a little bit as we move through this to find the perfect place. My toes are flat on the mat. I'm pressing them in. Knees are just underneath my hips. And I'm going to inhale where I am. Exhale to suck my navel in towards my spine. Find a deep, deep arch in my back. Let my head drop and press through my hands, pushing my hips back in the direction of my heels. They don't have to reach perfectly. When you get to wherever you land, inhale fully there. And as you exhale, press through the hands. Push through the hands, let the hips come away from the heels, come through that curve as if you were doing the cat shape, like a scared cat. We're going to find a real flexion in the spine, the dinosaur, that whole set of spikes all along the top of your back, really on display. Keeping them up, flaring them, showing them off until you simply can't any longer keep that curve and you've got to drop your hips. Let your hips drop, let your chest reach through the tops of your arms and maybe look up or look forward, whatever's more comfortable on your neck. Exhale to let your head drop, press through your hands, suck your navel in towards your spine. Find that curve again and keep the curve. See how much you feel that curve right through from the top of your back into the middle spine, into the lower spine. Then keep moving. Let your hips reach towards your hips, but keeping that curve as long as you possibly can. And when you reach wherever you're going to reach to, then inhale there. And one more time, exhale, pressing through the hands, letting the hips reach away from the heels, coming into that real flexion of the spine, as much curve as you can find. Every vertebra is separating here. Really feel as if you're showing off your stegosaurus wares here. And allow your hips to drop when you just can't keep up that pronation any longer. And then let your chest reach through your arms, press into your toes, and you might be looking up to the ceiling, or you might be looking straight ahead. Let's see how your neck feels today. Exhale to let your head sink, navel sucking towards the spine, finding the arch, and let your hips reach towards your heels. Take a full inhale there, a full exhale. And when you're ready, come to your hands and knees on the mat. This time I'm getting rid of my blocks. You can choose whether you like blocks for spinal waves or not, but for the cat-cow, it's usually quite nice just to be flat on the mat. We're going to do a couple of cat-cows here. So this time, we really want our hands underneath our shoulders. Our toes again are pressing into the mat as if we really wanted to leave the imprint of our toenails on the mat. Our knees are underneath our hips. And we're doing a little explore now. We've done that curve and the arch of the spine. See if you can do a little curving and arching and then find your neutral spine, where you're neither sticking your bum up in the air, nor are you tucking it under and curving your back, but finding a neutral place where you feel like your tailbone is reaching away to the back of the room and your sternum to the front, your crown to the front. See if you can elongate the back of the neck. Imagine somebody was tugging you from just behind your ears, the upper back of your ears, and trying to lengthen your head towards the front of the room. Fingers spread wide, conscious of pressing through the first finger and the thumb. As we inhale, we're going to let our bellies release and suck our chest through the tops of our arms, feeling almost as if we were dragging the heels of our hands towards our knees. As we exhale, we're going to let our heads drop and be heavy, our navel suck towards our spines, press through the hands. Really see if you can keep that pad of the first finger pressing down as we curve and arch. Really find deep flexion in our spine. One more time, inhaling, letting the belly drop, letting the chest suck forward. Maybe looking up, but still keeping the back of the neck extended. Shoulder blades are reaching in as if they were coming into the front of your chest. Exhale, sucking the navel in, dropping the head, finding a really, really deep arch, this one, big curve, and maybe coming up onto your fingertips here. Making a little tent with your hands and seeing how much flexion you can find in the spine. And then releasing, coming back into a neutral position. We're going to thread the needle a couple of times to find the rotation. We're also going to come back to thinking about our shoulder position in the rowing stroke. So we're going to take our left hand into a more central position, almost underneath our face. And as we inhale, we're going to draw our right hand up the inside of the left arm as if we were drawing a bow and we were about to shoot an arrow. And maybe reaching that right hand up towards the ceiling, or maybe taking the back of the right hand, placing it on the sacrum and using that as a lever. The main aim here being to open up across your collarbone and your sternum and to get a sensation of your right shoulder blade integrating into your back. As we exhale, we're going to release that hand. And this time I'm going to suggest that you thread it through underneath the left arm, almost as if you were reaching forward. So with your palm facing down in the rowing stroke. Allow yourself to maybe drop the shoulder down towards the mat. And see if wherever you land, you might want a wee blanket underneath that shoulder, but see if you can allow a little of your body weight to sink onto that shoulder. And maybe a tiny bit of movement there, massaging into the deep connective tissue, getting beyond the skin layer, beyond the dermis, beyond the epidermis. And seeing if we can really massage into some of the fascia and connective tissue. And maybe get some of the joint fluid, the synovial fluids that keep the joints gliding, really moving to support this very vulnerable joint for us. And then in your next inhale, bring yourself back up to all fours. Maybe give your hips a little wiggle, your shoulders a little wiggle. And we'll do the same thing on the opposite side. So again, I'm going to bring my right hand into the center underneath my face. I'm going to be spreading my fingers wide, pressing through the pads of each finger, but especially the first finger and the thumb. So I inhale, I'm going to draw my left hand up the inside of the right arm as if I was drawing back the string on a bow. And again, you can choose. You might want to extend that left arm, but see if you might enjoy putting the back of the left hand onto the back of the right buttock and using that as leverage to open the body and find the rotation. Maybe noticing what happens with that left shoulder blade if you don't allow the left trap to sneak up toward your shoulder, but keep the left shoulder blade integrating as if it was reaching through from the back into the wall of your chest. Exhale. We're going to thread the left hand under with the palm facing down as if we were reaching through in a stroke. Bring our shoulder down to the floor or to a block or to the blanket. And see if wherever we land, we can allow a little bit of our body weight to bring a little compression into that shoulder joint with a little tiny bit maybe of circular movement, maybe side to side, whatever you feel it needs. Finding a wee space to massage in, getting beyond the surface layers and deep into the fascia, the connective tissue. Really seeing if we can get that glide in the joint, get away from the stickiness that we sometimes get from the tension and often overuse of this joint. And then inhale and bring yourself back up to all fours. We're going to push ourselves back towards a child's pose. So again, coming maybe through that cat-shaped curve, letting your hips reach in the direction of your heels. They don't have to reach perfectly. And you might be dropping your head down in front of you. You might be pillowing your hands to give a little support for your head or using a little block under your forehead. You know, some people really love to have their hands lying alongside their body, maybe with a block underneath their forehead and allowing a little release there. While you're here, see if you can really surrender the shoulders. See if you can allow the shoulder blades to be almost like they're sliding off round your body. So separating and gliding away, slipping away round the sides of your body. One right, one left. And see how much with every exhale you can allow those shoulder blades to relax, to release, and to let go. One more inhale. One more exhale. And then you might begin to pad yourself up to kneeling, maybe walking your hands back out into that all fours position, tucking your toes in, pressing through your hands and pushing your hips up and away to create the inverted triangle that's downward facing dog. It's our first one, so maybe bending one knee, bending the other knee. Doing whatever you need to do to try and find maximum extension in your spine, relaxation of your head and your neck. You don't need to worry so much about getting your heels to the floor, but more about shifting the weight towards the back of the room, finding the length in the spine. And for today, really thinking about if you're in this position, could you maybe bend your knees, press through your hands, and really think about allowing those shoulder blades to keep that separation. Almost as if your armpits were trying to wrap round and frame your face. And take a breath or two there. And on your next exhale, we're going to flush the air completely out of the lungs. And inhale to make our way, stepping, walking, jumping to the top of the mat. Stay hanging there for a moment. Feet between your hands, head heavy, your knees might be bent, might be beginning to straighten depending how your hamstrings feel today. And with your next inhale, really feel like you're pressing every toe and your heels into the ground, slight bend in your knees as you allow yourself to evolve and roll all the way up to standing. You come to standing, shrugging the shoulders down, allowing the palms to supinate and face the front of the room, and finding your Samastitihi standing position. Feet alive, driving into the ground, toes spread as wide, and even if they're not actually spreading, mentally spreading the toes, feeling an even weighting of your body weight across your feet and your heels as if they're actually sinking into the ground. Switching on the insteps of your feet, the inner calves, the inner thighs. Finding a neutral position from your pelvis, just as we did when we were in the cat-cow. We neither want to be sticking out nor tucking in, finding a neutral place. And then imagining, we're going to keep on with that dinosaur analogy, imagining you've got this really weighty jeweled tail that's dragging your tailbone down. And as you have that imagination, imagine that weight in your heels. And just as much as you have that weight in the downward part of your body, as you inhale, feel the lightening of the upper part of the spine. Allow it to fly. Watching for a jutting chin, seeing if you can slightly retract that chin. And as you lighten in the sternum, lighten in the cervical spine. See if you can balance your skull evenly on your spine. Shoulders dropped and relaxed. And we're going to do 2 half sun salutations here. Inhaling to float our arms up, maybe gazing up to our thumbs. Exhaling to dive forward, bending your knees as generously as makes you comfortable. Inhaling to lengthen the spine parallel to the mat, looking up. Exhaling to drop that head. Imagine you were dropping it onto some support. Really allow some weight into the head. And then as you inhale, beginning again with pressing the feet into the mat. Slight bend in the knees as you push off and evolve one vertebrae at a time all the way to standing. Rolling and shrugging the shoulders down, supinating the palms, letting the arms float up above your head, maybe gaze into your thumbs, maybe looking straight ahead. And exhaling, let the palms face the ground, find a little resistance as they come back to Samastitihi. And one more time, just like that. Inhaling to float the arms up, maybe gazing to your thumbs. Exhaling to dive forward, head heavy, hips high. Inhale to lengthen out your spine, draw the navel in, let the shoulder blades integrate into your back. Your hands might be on your shins to help you get that feeling. Exhale to drop your head with real weight in it, neck is long. And then as we inhale, we start by pushing through the feet, slight bend in the knees to allow us to spring and roll and evolve all the way back up to Samastitihi, our arms opening up, palms open as they float up and exhaling, palms down, all the way back to Samastitihi. This time we're going to do that, but go back into a plank position from our fold. So just following my voice as we lead you through. Inhaling, arms floating up, the movement's coming from under the shoulder blades, not from the traps. Exhaling, diving forward, our navel's drawing towards our spine, our head is heavy, heels are weighted to the ground. Inhaling to lengthen, integrate the shoulder blades into the back and look up. Exhale, dropping the head. This time taking the hands to the mat, dropping our hips and stepping back into a high plank position. Now your choice here, if you're comfortable in high plank, stay here. If you prefer, you could drop your knees to the mat. You'll still be doing the same job. Wherever you are, we're going to take a moment looking at stabilizing our shoulders. So we're going to push our hands into the mat and find that protracted position that we found when we were using our block. We don't want our bums going way up in the air. We're aiming for a long plank with our heels reaching in one direction, our crown in the other, but we want to dome that upper back, our shoulder blades sliding round and doming. Exhaling, we're going to release the shoulders, let the shoulder blades come together and the chest drop a little between the arms. Inhale to push and come back into that pronated position, doming. And exhale one last time, letting the shoulder blades draw together and the chest drop down into the upper arm space. And then with your next inhale, we're going to push back in towards a downward facing dog position. Take a breath there, inhale and an exhale. And on your next inhale, we're going to move our left foot slightly to the center position, and we're going to let our right foot lift a little behind us. It doesn't have to be terribly high. As we exhale, we're going to suck our navel in and suck the knee in the direction of our nose. When it gets to as far as it's going to go, we're going to drop the right foot onto the mat and shuffle it until it's between our hands at the front of the mat. You can drop the left knee onto the mat, and you can make a choice as to whether you'd rather have your left toes tucked or flat on the mat, whatever feels more comfortable. And we're going to come up to a crescent lunge position. While we're in this position, again, you might want something under your knees. You can use a little mat. So we inhale, we're going to raise our arms, letting them float up again. As we exhale, we're going to find a cactus position, drawing the shoulder blades together in a retracted position, gazing forward and letting our elbows lead. One more time, inhaling and exhaling down through the cactus position. With our next inhale, we're going to let our arms open wide. And as we exhale, we're going to wrap ourselves in a great big hug, real hug, like you're hugging somebody you love. And maybe walk your fingers a little bit behind you. See if you can maybe grab onto a bit of your shoulder blades to give yourself a really good tight hug. And see if you can find that protracted position again, letting the shoulder blades slide round the sides of your body and separate. Inhale to open wide again. And this time as we exhale, this one's a brain tease for you, we're going to wrap our right arm underneath the left arm, crossing, and then bringing the upper parts of the arms back together. You might have the two backs of your hands together, clapping, or some of you might want to keep twisting and bring the palms of the hands towards each other. Again, wherever you are in this, see if you can find that protraction. Can you see the doming of my upper back? That's what we're really looking for in this position. And then exhale, release the arms, inhale up towards the ceiling, exhale, coming back through your cactus. And this time we're going to bring the left hand to the inside of the right foot on the mat. I'm going to let my toes come flat to the mat. And as we inhale, we're going to open up with the right arm into a rotation. Again, your choice. You can have that right arm up, or you might want to bring the back of the right hand onto the back of the left hip and find the rotation by using a little leverage. Exhale, bring both hands round to frame your front foot, tuck the toes of your left leg and step both legs back until you're back in your high plank. And you can again choose if you want to be in high or low plank, but wherever you are, we're doing the same thing again. We're going to inhale to push and protract. Exhale to let ourselves sink and retract, still keeping the back of the neck long. Inhale to push and protract. Exhale to release and retract. And the next inhale, we're going to push our hips back high into a downward facing dog. Inhaling there, exhaling there. And again, really thinking about those shoulder blades wrapping around the body, armpits rotating towards the face. One last inhale. One last exhale. We're going to move our right foot in a little towards the center. As we inhale, we're going to let our left foot rise behind us. Again, it doesn't have to be high. Exhale, coming from the navel, sucking the navel to the spine, sucking the left knee in the direction of your nose and dropping your foot to the mat. Wherever it lands, give it a shuffle until the left foot's in between the hands at the front of the mat, and then let your right knee drop towards the mat. Find your crescent lunge, whether your toes are tucked or flat. And we're going to go through the same sequence. So inhaling, letting the arms float up, maybe the chest will open, maybe you'll look to the ceiling, maybe straight forward. Exhaling, opening into a cactus, letting the shoulder blades draw together. Inhaling to float up, your choice of gaze. Exhale into that cactus position. This time inhaling to open really wide. Exhaling with the opposite arm on top. Whatever arm you used last time on top, see if you can do it the opposite time. So give ourselves a really huge hug. Almost as if we were using our hands to help separate our shoulder blades and draw them around our bodies. Inhale to open wide. And this time, exhaling, we're going to bring the left arm underneath the right, wrapping them round. Maybe the backs of the hand meet. Maybe you continue and the fronts of the hand meet. Whatever you do, finding that rounding, that protraction of the upper back. And then releasing, inhaling the arms up. Exhaling through the cactus, real retraction of the shoulder blades. And this time, bringing the right palm to the inside of the left foot, maybe tucking or flattening your back toe. And with my left arm, I'm going to inhale and rotate to the left-hand side. They're thinking about sucking that shoulder blade in, tucking the shoulder into its socket, keeping it protected. You might also be using the back of your left hand against the back of your left hip to find that rotation and opening again, focusing on that shoulder blade drawing down and in. The traps are away from the ears. As we release, we're going to frame the left foot with both hands, tuck the right toes, reach our left foot back through high plank. One last time, coming through the protraction, whether you're in high plank or low plank, and the retraction, dipping down, inhaling to protract, really doming the upper spine, exhaling to retract, dropping the upper arm. And then as you inhale this time, pushing back into our final downward facing dog. And inhale there. And exhale there. And this time coming forward, dropping onto your knees and finding yourself in a seated position on the mat. I'm going to shuffle my bum down, my toes forward, and we're going to move into our finishing postures. So, as always, it's really nice touch as you come down to the mat to do with a little bit of control. So my feet are together. As I'm coming down to the mat, I'm thinking about drawing my inner thighs towards one another, engaging my core and rolling gently, as much as I can, one vertebrae at a time, down towards the mat. And when you find yourself flat on the mat, feet can be flat on the mat, maybe your knees are up in the air, and we're going to do a little bridge posture. So I've got my feet about hip distance apart. In terms of position, they're just far enough away from my bum that I can't quite reach them with my fingers, but I nearly can. I'm going to inhale, supinate my palms and have them turned upwards, lying on the floor. I'm lengthening the back of my spine and feeling my chin retraction, so my chin isn't jutting up. I'm going to get an imagination as if I was squeezing a block between my thighs, although I'm not actually moving the thighs. And as I inhale, I'm going to be pushing my knees, almost as if they were going to try and reach away across my toes, allowing that to lift my buttocks without too much muscling from the buttocks, and open my body right across the front of the hip flexors, the hip space, the front of the ribs, and right up across my chest space. And as I exhale, I'm going to roll down one vertebrae at a time, maybe shuffling out my shoulders a little bit as I come all the way back down onto the mat. And now I'm going to keep my feet flat to the floor, but bring my feet together and my knees together. And my arms are going to go out in a wide T shape, unless you really love a cactus shape on the floor. That's a little more pressure on the shoulders, but because we've been doing a lot of shoulder mobility, you might find that quite nice tonight. I'm going to inhale where we are, and as I exhale, drop both knees down towards the right-hand side. Using the breath to encourage the left waist, the left hip to release, the backs of the hands to be relaxed, not too shaky or tense. If you're comfortable in that position and your shoulders are both on the floor, you might want to drop your head to gaze towards the left-hand side. And if you're feeling the cactus position is too much, then just allow your hands to reach out and stretch into a T. Allowing your breath to encourage the body to release and let go in that position. And then inhale to bring both of your knees back to center. Take a breath there, inhaling and exhaling. Inhale again and exhale to drop both knees down towards the left-hand side. Again, using your breath to encourage the hip flexors, the waist, the shoulders to relax. And maybe letting your gaze drop down to the right-hand side. There's no pressure to do that, and certainly not if it makes your shoulders tight or lifts your shoulders away from the floor. And inhaling, drawing both knees back to center and taking your choice of inversion, maybe dead bug, hands and feet in the air, maybe rotating ankles and wrists. Could just be hugging your knees towards your chest, having a little roll around. Might let your legs up the wall, bum at the base of the wall. Or maybe a happy baby, your hands through your legs, taking some part of the outside, maybe your calves, maybe the sides of your feet. Maybe taking a little rock. And when you feel like you've had enough of your chosen inversion, then find your way to your preferred place for relaxation. That might still be with your feet up the wall, might be with your bolster or cushions under your knees. Or it might just be lying flat on your back with your feet dropped out and your hands to your sides. Wherever you are, get yourself cozy and comfy. Remember, there's absolutely no pressure to get up at the end of this class. I usually just switch the camera off and then enjoy seeing you next week. So please just get yourself into a great position. Allow your whole body to really release. We worked a lot on those shoulders, the neck. So how heavy you can allow them to be now. And you get a little sense as you allow your breath to become natural and soft. A floating sensation. And a little ripple through the body. On the top of your head, undulating across the face, down the back of the neck and shoulders, right through your ribs, your pelvis, through your weighted thighs, backs of your calves and your heels. Feeling that gentle ebb and flow as the breath enters and leaves the body. And see if you can bring a real softness now. We're finding the flow. Looking for the ease. And balancing the strength and effort that we put in so much of the day. Really see if you can get that sensation of release and undulation as the body settles. The vibrations that we set up with the initial Om, that we're fueled with the breath and the flow. And allow that undulation now, that ebb and that flow to settle in your body. Really allow you to come to a place of ease. And feeling that softening across the brow, the eye space, and in the jaws, in front of the throat, across the chest. And in that real center around the belly space. Gently allowing all the sensations to integrate and to settle. You let yourself be fully weighted and released. Swasti prajabhyaha paripalayandam nyayena margena mahim mahishaha go brahmanebhyaha shubhamastu nityam loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Now please stay cozy and relaxed for as long as you can allow yourselves. I'll switch off the camera and I'll see you next time.